Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, students, to Famous Fridays. This is your host, Alex Elmhurst.
I'm Christopher and Julie Harto.
On today's podcast, we will be interviewing a famous special guest. Whoop, whoop, get excited for that one. We even have a few of you guys, our amazing listeners, coming to play a fun BuzzFeed game at the end of the show. Speaking of BuzzFeed, that's actually today's podcast sponsor. What is your love language? How do you show someone that you love them? Do you think that you show love differently from everyone else? If any of these questions intrigue you, go on over to BuzzFeed.com and take a quiz to find out your love language today.
To start of our show, I would like to welcome out a man all the way from Coromandel. This specific individual is a royal descendant, warrior, and above all, a charming romantic for his beloved wife, Imowinda. Unfortunately, this couple has endured many obstacles that have put their relationships to many tests, but they have yet to falter in their love for one another. Please give a hand to Orinoco. Hello, Mr. Orinoco. Welcome to Famous Fridays. We are so glad that you were able to come talk with us today. We can't wait to get to know a little bit about you today.
Thank you so much, Christopher. It's an honor to come and talk with you guys.
On today's podcast, we wanted to focus on love. We figured you were just the man for that.
Christopher, I'm glad that's what comes to mind when you think of me.
So, I want to start off by asking you as how long you've been married to Imowinda.
How long I've been married and one is kind of a difficult question. If it were not for the king, we would have been together since I was 17. And as is, that's not how exactly it played out. And Moin and I were never actually truly married. So I can't really answer the question.
I see. So, what are your opinions on love? Specifically, what do you think is the best way for one to express love to a loved one?
Love is something that is truly neutral between two people. Love is something that two people work together to achieve. And if two people are truly in love, they will risk everything for each other. They will give up everything just to be able to be in love forever. When it comes to expressing love, everything revolves around making the other happy. If that means sneaking into the Atan and risking banishment, then that has to be done. What has to be done has to be done.
I see. I understand. So, do you regret killing Imoinda?
I've regretted killing her since the moment that it happened. Although she did, in fact, ask me to do it, that still doesn't take away my regret and sorrow from the actions I did commit. And then every day I wish I can bring her back and our unborn child too, and take her back home to where we can grow old together away from this mess.
Seeing that, Imowinda accepted her death, in what way do you think was obedience considered an important element of love in your culture? And since you clearly hail from a culture in which wives see their husbands as a deity, would you consider Imowinda to be unfaithful should she refuse to be killed, and why?
My whole life I was raised with that idea that wives must be obedient to their husbands, but I never really understood nor liked the idea of that. And then I think that if Moinda did say that she did not want to be killed, I would totally go wrong with her with that decision. It's like death is literally like a life or death situation. And then obviously I wouldn't force her to die, especially if she is someone who I hold dear to my heart.
Well, you might consider the killing of Imowinda to be done out of love. It is clear that, to some people, Westerners in particular, uh, they might disagree with you. What do you say to that?
I definitely understand where they're coming from. And I think that that would definitely be questioned all over the world without the context of what actually happened. And I feel like once everyone puts themselves into my shoes and what happened and the situation we were in, they'd have a better understanding of why we decided this in the first place. But like anytime someone asks, why in the world would you do this to your wife? I always just simply tell them in that moment, in that point in time, there was literally not a single other option we had.
I see. So, as a man who truly values the concept of monogamy, do you see yourself as a hypocrite when you approved of and even encouraged Abuan's relationship with Onahal? This brings me to question as to what extent do you consider the act of forgoing your own values and beliefs acceptable given the circumstances you were in at the time of your wife's rape?
I don't really see myself as a hypocrite of Ornithal, like because she was no longer married to the king, and as the king had divorced her due to her age. Another important thing to note is that Orban was also not married at the time of their relationship, which means that they were not in an adulterous relationship.
Oh, I see. So, this brings me, to the last question of this interview. In what way do you see your philosophy of love different from that of your culture or that of the Westerns?
From my perspective, I see love as a mutual feeling between two people who have the same strong feelings and love towards each other. In my culture, love is not entirely felt on both sides. At least from my royal standpoint, it's only one-sided.
Yes.
Although there are some cases of true love between a king and his wives, there's also the cases that where the wives want absolutely nothing to do with the marriage in the first place.
Well, thank you so much for sharing a little about you today. It was very nice to get to talk to you.
It was my pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. After this quick commercial message, we will be back to play a game with two of our listeners.
Imagine missing points on an essay because you didn't use a reliable source. As a student, it's hard to know if the article you're reading is accurate or not. If you're ever in doubt, hop on factcheck.com, an online resource that helps you find reliable and safe sources.
Awesome. That was so amazing to get to see an example of one person's opinion on love. Now we're going to have two of our listeners here today. Give a warm welcome to Katie and Isabel. In this segment, we will be playing a game of Would You Rather. I will ask several questions in which they will have to choose between the two options. First question for you two today is, after a fight, would you rather have your significant other buy you flowers or write you a love song?
Personally, I would want my significant other to write me a love song because I don't know, I just feel like that's a little more effort than just buying me some flowers. Although I still like flowers, don't get me wrong.
I'd actually have to disagree. I'd probably want flowers only because I don't really know how I'd react to a love song.
That's awesome. So this next question is going to be a little bit more serious. Would you rather kill your spouse to get them out of misery or keep them alive but know they're still hurting?
I'd probably kill them only because I don't think I'd be able to live with myself knowing that they're in pain. And I wouldn't be able to do anything about it.
On the other hand, I feel as though I would probably keep them alive because, I don't really know if they would end up being in pain after like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Maybe something could change along like the timeline that I would have regretted killing them.
Great responses. So would you rather be honest with someone but know it will upset them or lie to them to keep them happy?
I would probably lie to them to keep them happy just because I prefer to, see the joy on their face. If they're excited about something, most of the time it's like a white lie.
I'd have to disagree with that. I'd rather tell them the truth only because honesty is the best policy. And I mean, lying might be worse than that.
That's awesome. So would you rather leave a significant other when times get tough, or would you stay with them to try and work it out?
I would stay with them to try and work it out only because, problems can be resolved unless it's like a really big issue that obviously can't be resolved.
Yeah, I agree with what Katie said. I would probably stay and see if we can resolve things.
Perfect. Thank you so much, ladies. Like I said before, all of those questions came from BuzzFeed.com. Feel free to check them out for more fun quizzes and games similar to this one. Unfortunately, though, we are out of time, and that was it for today's podcast. Thank you so much, Isabel and Katie, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you so much to all of our other listeners for listening to today's podcast. We love and appreciate you so much, and we can't wait to hear from you. And we hope that you join us again next week on Famous Fridays.